who will be forcing a government shutdown.
Putting the obvious hypocrisy aside,
the speech he gave were just fervent with hypocrisy and cynicism.
Remember me, I'm the guy that gets us out of shutdowns.
He should be able to see the words
Hypocrisy
and cynicism.
Yeah, a little back and forth between Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell and Senate Minority Leader Harry Reid, and I'd say that's a good place to bring in a roundtable.
Let's do it. Please welcome with us to the roundtable political columnist Liz Peek and the host of The Agenda and former advisor to Senate Minority Leader Harry Reid, Ari Rabin-Havt. Thanks so much for being with us. So, Ari, President Obama is threatening to veto the Senate Republicans' military spending plan, the defense spending bill here. Are the Democrats going to get blamed for a government shutdown, perhaps, like Republicans used to, or got blamed for a shutdown at one point, I should say?
Mm-hmm.
I highly doubt a shutdown will occur over the military spending bill. I think at this point, people have recognized the fallacy of shutdowns, and they will find a way if they have to do extensions, etc. I highly doubt anybody will take it there in reality, and I think they will work this out before, as everyone has learned that shutdowns don't really benefit us.
No, they didn't certainly benefit Republicans, no matter which side you agree on. The public opinion poll, the result at the polls was obvious. Liz, what do you think about this, the back and forth we're hearing now between McConnell and Harry Reid? This can't bode well, though, for the situation, because it seems like they are pretty far apart, considering the president is threatening to veto.
Yeah, I think actually the Democrats on this issue have got this all wrong politically, and it's the first time I think that they've really been on the wrong end of one of these government tussles, because the public is already worried that our defense spending is being trumped by other countries and that we're looking powerless on the world stage. And I think the public in general will be supportive of raising the amount of money we're spending for defense, especially since the Republicans have sort of titled this, a pay raise for our troops. Our troops are pretty popular right now, and the military is pretty popular. I think Obama and Reid are on the wrong side of this.
Well, Speaker Boehner issued this warning to Democrats intent on blocking military spending. Let's take a listen.
Now the Democrats are playing politics. They don't want to support a raise for our troops until they get more spending on their big government programs. And the president has actually threatened to veto the bill. I get that Democrats want to spend more. They always do. But that shouldn't get in the way of fulfilling our most serious responsibilities. Our troops come first.
All right, you got to admit there, Boehner has a point, and when he plays up the money for our troops, that's a very difficult position for Democrats to find themselves in, right?
But let's be clear here about one thing. Like every politician in Congress, you can't find one who actually doesn't support raises for our troops. What's in this defense bill? And by the way, everyone also agrees that defense bills are loaded up with waste. Weapons programs the Pentagon says we don't want. Boondoggles like the F-35, which everyone acknowledges has been hugely problematic. By the way, we're putting a fighter into the field that has less capabilities than our current F-16 and spending billions of dollars on it. Everybody acknowledges that's a problem. That's all in this bill. Things like our defense bill are a problem.
If I could interject.
Go ahead, Liz. Please do.
The same could be true for our domestic spending bills. There's fat in every aspect of the government
Yeah, but the
budget.
Pentagon bill is just larger than everything.
That may be, but I think you're going to have more sympathy for that than for some of the domestic programs which have been excoriated in the last few years for being monstrously wasteful, riddled with fraud, etc. So I think that argument really just doesn't matter that much to people. People, as I say, if the Republicans bill this as something beneficial for our troops, that trumps right now the issues about the deficit, because as we all know, the deficit now is running kind of in line with historical
And that's why conservatives are not serious about cutting the deficit, because the largest single discretionary portion of our budget is military spending. And unless you're willing to cut military spending, you're a joke when it comes to deficit reduction.
Well, Ari, here we are, with the talks of government shutdown again, and perhaps you're right, nobody is willing to spend or to cut this defense spending, and this would perhaps reinstore or replace those sequester cuts, right? Well, why cannot Democrats and Republicans come to the table and put stuff on the table that they are willing to cut from domestic policy and from our defense budget?
I mean, look, there have been attempts on, frankly, both sides to put stuff on the table, and we're in a situation in Washington where people don't want to talk to each other and don't want to agree, and both sides And look, Republicans will never put tax increases on the table. Democrats won't ever won't touch Social Security and Medicare. Actually, I think rightfully so. But we can talk about
all right.
that.
All right, let's give Liz 30 more seconds. We got a commercial break coming up. We can pick it up on the other end. Liz, about 30 seconds left to you before we have to step aside.
I'm glad you raised Social Security and Medicare, because obviously those are the issues that going forward really do need to be addressed. And I think some candidates are being brave and talking about curbing our entitlements programs. Those are the things. And by the way, higher interest rates.
I would talk about expanding them.
Savage are going to totally savage our budget going forward. Look,
all right, Liz, let's take a quick break. I'm sorry to cut you off, but we'll have you right back, and we can finish our thoughts on this in cutting government spending or increasing government spending. We come right back after this.
And please welcome back to our roundtable. Go ahead.
Liz Peek, Ari Rabin-Havt, thanks for being back with us. Sorry to cut you off, Miranda. But
Yeah.
we were talking, Liz, and we got cut off by a commercial break before, about the unwillingness by both parties, really, on Capitol Hill to cut spending here. We want to give you a chance to finish up with your comment.
Well, I was going to say I am skeptical that this White House would ever engage in any serious conversation about trimming our long-term economic problems, fiscal problems, and our deficits. And two words really back up my position, which are Simpson Bowles. If you remember, President Obama asked those two senators to work very hard on convening a commission that came up with some very tough but reasonable programs and policies to stem our deficits going into the future. President Obama never met with them. He never acknowledged what they had come to. It was a complete sham, and I think that sort of summed up the fiscal responsibility of this White House.
Yeah, tough things were on the table for the Simpson Bowles plan, including the mortgage interest tax deduction, which a lot of families benefit from, but a difficult discussion. And we'll see what the candidates say, because we know these spending cuts items will come up on this campaign trail. But
Speaking of spending and money, let's talk Donald Trump, shall we? The Washington Post posted this article describing the presidential candidate Donald Trump's long history of handwriting letters to journalists that he thinks just don't take him seriously. So here we have one as an example. Bad reporting, bad reporter. 2, there was no fall. I was leading in the polls. And 3, a third-rate documentary and extremely dishonest, as you know.
Very nice penmanship, though.
Yeah, very nice, much better than mine. Ari, is this going to hurt him in the polls? Dare I say, will it help him fall in the polls?
Are the letters gold-plated? Because that could help him. Look, are we really discussing where Donald Trump is in the polls? Not to, I think he will have some strength in the polls, but the idea that he will be nominated to be a candidate of any major party, I'm a Democrat, but I wouldn't believe Republicans are that stupid to nominate somebody like Donald Trump.
Well, let's talk a little bit about this, because Politico has a article up about the chances that Donald Trump may have. There are 7 reasons why perhaps the GOP should fear Donald Trump. Most of all, the amount of enthusiasm and money, saying that the current GOP frontrunners seem too safe and boring. Liz, he's certainly going to have an impact on the discussion in the primary campaign, is he not?
He already is having an impact, and here's why. A lot of people are actually very angry about the things that are going wrong in our country. Americans feel like we've lost a lot of prestige on the world stage, that we're being clobbered by ISIS, we don't have a plan, that China is eating our lunch, etc. And Donald Trump speaks to those things. He really channels that anger in a very profound and very workable way. Look, I think he's a terrible misfortune for the Republicans, because he can stay in this race quite a long time. He's obviously got the money to do it, and he appears to be serious about hanging on to the campaign for a while, and that's problematic because his voice will be heard, and he definitely reaches a segment of the population that's angry. By the way, just the way Bernie Sanders is. A lot of people in the country, when you have a huge percentage of the country saying we're on the wrong track, politicians kind of dismiss that polling. It's not good news, folks. People are not happy with what's going on in this country, and whether you're on the left or the right, you tend to sort of put that at the feet of those in government, whether it's the White House or whether it's Congress. And Donald Trump's in a position to go after all those folks. and you
Right.
know, people paying attention.
Well, whether
Populism
you
works.
like what he says or not, I like kind of having him in there because he's not afraid to speak his mind. But I want to go to what Liz was saying. Ari, do you think that he's going to hurt the Republican Party? Because there are a lot of Republicans out there saying he could do that.
I mean, I don't know. I think he'll make the race more fun. Like, I'll certainly be more interested in watching Republican debates with him on stage, you know? So I don't hurt or helps. I think you can't really say coming up. If I were a Republican, I wouldn't want him in the race for the very reasons Liz said. But I mean, let's just take one key difference between him and Bernie Sanders for a second. Last year, Bernie Sanders worked with John McCain to pass a comprehensive reform bill to our Veterans Administration system. Bernie Sanders has been a serious member of Congress for years and has passed some very significant legislation. Donald Trump builds tacky buildings.
He did.
Also,
Go ahead, Liz.
actually, in defense, he actually has done some more than that. But I mean, in New York City, for example, he has actually weighed in very rarely, but occasionally on public issues and actually fixed things. I mean, you know, I think New Yorkers all love Donald Trump. This sounds kind of idiotic, but we have a major thing in our park, a big skating rink, and it had to be rebuilt. And everyone knew that our children were going to be in college by the time it actually got done. Donald Trump went in and did it in 6 months, and he will be a hero to an entire generation of New Yorkers for that reason. I mean, when he says he can run something, forget for a moment that his company's been in bankruptcy 4 times, you know, people have some confidence in that.
That's true.
Yeah.
It's true. You can't argue with his business success and his ability to turn things around, at least after those 4 bankruptcies, as you mentioned there. Liz Peek, thanks so much for being with us. Ari Rabin-Havt, always great to see you both.
Thanks
Thank
so
you.
much for having us.
All right, we just heard what a roundtable thinks. We want to know what you think. Who are you supporting for the Republican primary? Tell us online in Newsmax's Republican primary poll. We'd love to hear from you. We'll be right back.